the things that I was touching with you upon earlier was in terms of ritual, because I know you have a kind of a Chinese medicine background and you're an acupuncturist as well and a healer, and that is the five elements.
Hmm.
So in the Eastern traditions, pretty much, and also here, I think in the Native American traditions, all indigenous perhaps traditions have the five elements, which is earth, water, fire, air, and then ether. And so I've been doing certain meditations around that, both from kind of the yogic standpoint and the Sufi traditions. And I felt that it was very much, as early as I was sharing with you, very much like the ritual conversation were happening. But I was not looking at it from that perspective. So yeah, I would love to hear from your traditional training and also how you see this.
Yeah, because it's like something that always hold like really near and dear to my heart. I had no idea when I was going to school to become an acupuncturist that I would learn about the five elements and that this was like a big part of Chinese medicine. I honestly had no idea. It was like this beautiful gift that I was given on top of learning all the other parts of becoming an acupuncturist, because of the fact that the five elements are a little bit different in Chinese medicine than they are in Ayurveda,
Right.
because it's wood, fire, earth, metal, water. Those are the five.
Hmm.
And so it's a little slightly different, but it's based off of the same thought, that like the interplay of each of them and how each one supports each other. And learning that was always like, I was like, oh my gosh. And then looking at the fact that those five elements that we were learning about actually exist within our physical bodies. So there's the water element, there's the fire element, wood, earth, metal, all of that exists inside of our physical body. And the interplay with all of them, and how as soon as one becomes out of balance, then that'll throw the whole system off. And I mean, the system of Chinese medicine is so deeply intricate. It's so intricate. So, it's like we are the microcosm of the macrocosm, and we contain all the same elements that are in the exterior are also in the interior. And the way that we connect the two is through the senses. So for like interior inside the body, there's like the earth element, and you use the sense of taste is considered the earth element. And like certain characteristics, like the voice, will be more sing-songy. We talk about the voice being sing-songy in Chinese medicine. That's going to be considered earth, an earth sounding voice. And like the fluid, what's the fluid of the earth element? Because the earth element is really responsible for fluid metabolism. It's almost
Hmm.
like it's just all the fluids of the body would be considered the earth element, because the digestion is like the center that is responsible for moving fluid. That's its main job, is to separate what we call the clear from the turbid.
Hmm.
And that's like the main process of the earth element inside the body. And it's so crazy because, it was like mind blowing when you start to think about it. I'm like, well, the earth, and like, what does the earth do? What does our earth do? And you're like, oh my gosh, like our earth like transmutes all energy. Like it's crazy, even to the point where, we create all of this man-made materials like plastic, which is like terrible for the environment. And
Right.
yet the earth is figuring out how to transmute the plastic and turn it into something useful. It's like the
Mm.
most mind-blowing thing, where you're like, okay, so the power of the planet is like, you start to think about it and it's completely mind-blowing. And then you start thinking about the earth element inside of you, and what is that processing for you, and how does that connect to the water element? How does that connect to the wood element? And it just shows like the interplay of it all. And one thing that always struck me a lot when I was in school was how we look at the elements that one feeds directly into the other, right? So wood goes directly into fire, goes directly into earth, goes directly into metal, goes directly into water, and then back to wood, right? It's this circle. This is a circle that they all follow. And I never quite understood it in the way that it was taught, because in my mind, in my brain, the earth element should be in the center. And I couldn't quite understand why we were being taught that that they were all around in a circle, because when I kept trying to go around the circle and saying, well, I understand how this one feeds into this and how this one feeds into this, but I don't understand how this one feeds into this. Like, what's the connection here? And I started really going through it. And I remember like even asking my professors, and they were like, well, that's just how it is. Like the elements just feed in this circle. But I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't quite feel right.
Hmm.
And then it was interesting because I recently took a beautiful course all about crystals and gemstones, which I think I mentioned before. But our teacher, she totally believes and looks to a different model of how the five elements are represented, with the earth in the center, and then the four elements around the corners, and how each element passes through earth before its transformation. And that is like, and it's a very Taoist, it's a very old way of looking at the five elements, that like the earth is in the center and that all the other elements pass through and transmute through the earth. And, that when I saw that, I was like, that's exactly what I was trying to say all this time. Like in my mind, I was like, it just doesn't feel right. It's not sitting right with me. Like, I don't know why they're trying to put them in this direct flow. Like, it seems like there's something missing. And then once I realized, the earth is supposed to be in the center, then to me, it brought it to a whole nother level. Cause then it makes sense. Everything made more sense to me when I started looking at it that way. And I realized like the power of the elements within ourselves and how they can be used as tools too, which is a whole other topic, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, it's very interesting. The importance of them, it can't be mistaken. You cannot mistake the importance of the five elements, and the mirroring in our world within ourselves is, when you tap into that, it's like, it changes how you see everything. It changes how you see everything, like you said.
Yeah, and no, this was fascinating.